Hey everybody, this is Working the World, and I'm Sarah Whitaker.
Salty Dalty here.
And referee Rudy Diamond here.
And today we're having our referee episode, which is why we have the veteran Rudy Diamond here to take care of all of our questions and whatnot. And he's brought his awesome little granddaughter. And she's in the corner playing her
YouTube
games,
kids, yep.
and it's such a family affair. Thank you for being here. I mean, I really appreciate you giving your time here, and it's just awesome to get your knowledge on the situation.
One thing before we go, we interview him that we got to do is give him the old Rudy. Yeah, and she's sticking her tongue out on that. So, tell us a little bit about how you got
Sarah
started.
and Dalton, thank you guys for having me. It's definitely a great pleasure and honor to be invited to any podcast that I get accepted to do. Definitely enjoy giving some knowledge out to the fans, the folks that are listening, but definitely an honor, Sarah and Dalton. Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So how long have you been in this business?
Actually, 9 years will be coming up this November. So middle of November. November will be 9 years exactly. So
Wow. So, okay, let's get into the jargon of the day. Now, there's not a lot of jargon for referees, but the one thing that we have for the jargon of the day is the X sign used in matches where, in the event that a wrestler gets injured for real, it's for a shoot that they can get help.
yes. So. In the wrestling world, the referee is actually the main communicator. You know, we're there to put on a show for the fans, and the fans are there to watch the wrestlers. So a lot of times the referees are unseen or unheard to the fans, but to the wrestlers, they're very important. They play a very important role because if something's not going the way it's supposed to, the referee's there and can see that, hear that, and communicate that. So the jargon of the day with the X, putting the X up, it's one of those jargons that you don't ever want to have to use. But if you as fans aren't aware, pro wrestling is a choreographed, organized sporting event, okay? And so there is matches that are planned and time limits, and there are times where we're in a ring where someone actually does get hurt. You know, it does happen. I've been in a match where someone broke their collarbone.
Oof.
And so they do the X. That's to let them know. And actually the X will be coming from me, the referee. What will happen is I'll be in the ring. If someone was to get hurt, they would let me know. I would probably give the X to them, and they would either give me a thumbs up or an X back, or I could tell that it was serious enough that I need to make that call. Because once I throw that X up, they're going to stop what's happening. The match will stop immediately, and we will take care of the individual or the situation at hand at that time.
Wow. So how many times have you had to use that?
Twice. I had the one match where I had an individual broke his collarbone, and I was still fairly young. It was one of those shows you feel bad because there's with the noise and everything going on, and he's trying to tell me. So I think he probably had to tell me 2 or 3 times before I was able to hear it. And then, obviously, you have a broken bone, you can tell the guy's in pain. So it was an easy, didn't even question. I just put the X up right away, and and they were good. And the second time, I had an individual who was jumping over the top rope to make a move on the outside of the ring, went a little bit farther than he needed to, landed and twisted on his ankle, and once again, in the wrestling world, it is a choreographed show, and so sometimes you don't know if their expressions, is that part of the show, is that real? You don't know. So I went down, checked on the individual, and at times you have to make your own call. It's serious enough that I'm going to tell you that I'm going to put up the X. You can't recover from this, and so I had to do that a second time. So.
Wow. I mean, luckily you've only had to use it twice.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I mean, it's twice in 9 years. That's actually, that's a blessing.
Yes, definitely.
So,
I agree.
Get ready to start using that more when I come back, and they'll be pulling people out of the ring like it's a Roman Coliseum.
Dearest.
Remember, I said choreographed entertainment.
Oh, sure. I'm holding my fingers together like this.
I see.
And there is a second one, but we already touched upon it, and that's Go Home. And there's how do they do the sign for go home?
So pretty much the matter of just raising up the one finger, your index finger, and just doing a circle of motion. So you're really just trying to kind of like you like speed things up type deal.
Yeah.
You know, not slow things down, but speed things up. So in a circle of motion with the finger.
So I mean that's the sign to end the match pretty soon, or
So basically, the go home signal is for what happens is everything's on a time structure. We have so many matches we're trying to put together. We're at a venue that maybe we have to be done by a certain time, so it's very structured time wise. And so what will happen at times, the wrestlers that are in the ring might get a little bit, maybe I won't say lost, but then maybe they're having a little bit fun, or they want to keep going, even though they planned on it to be 10 minutes. Now we're at 12 and they're still in the middle of their match. They're not even close to being done. I would get a signal outside from one of the upper hands. It would let me know that we need to go home. They may give that same signal to me. That's what I'm kind of looking for. That's usually the common signal. And so then once I see that, then I will communicate to the wrestlers, hey guys, it's time to go home. And all that means is you guys need to finish your match. That's all we're doing.
Cool
Or
beans.
back in the olden days, the booker, the promoter, whoever it was watching the matches would actually come out and hold up a pencil and say, it's like, give him the pencil. It's like because Rip Rogers went into like a hour-long story about when he went into his first match, and part of that was like, okay, when you get the pencil, you go home. It's like, when I get the pen, it was his first ever match, and he's like, yeah, it's like, the pencil, what does that mean? Does he want me to shove it up his butt or what?
Right. Probably when I might have went to the finger, it felt better than the pencil. I don't know.
Yeah. Depending on which finger.
Yeah, correct.
All right.
Yeah.
So, how did you get into refereeing for professional wrestling?
Wow, and how long do we have to talk about this? No, I'm kidding. So I was a
All
fan.
the time you want.
I was a fan as a kid. Growing up, being from Iowa, WWE had not been, it was WWF back then. It was not really big time. It was before the first WrestleMania. And they would have independent wrestling, not independent, my apologies. They would have NWA wrestling. Bob Geigel out of St. Louis would come through.
Wrestling.
Central States Championship Wrestling. And he ran that out of St. Louis, Kansas City area. And so they did the Central States. And so they would come into Iowa, Des Moines, about every 6 weeks. And they would do a show every Saturday at noon. So I got to see the likes of the Bruiser Brody, actually Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. They were the Rockers. They were there. So a lot of stars up and coming. I'm a kid. Harley Race, Ric Flair, and they would travel all the time. The belt was NWA was a traveling belt, so they would travel into different territories to defend their belt. And so as a kid, it's just kind of all these punches and fighting, and you're like, it just awes you. And so as a kid, I became a fan. And then I joined the military, and then next thing you know, OWA, I'm in Omaha, and OWA pops up in 2000, early 2000. And so I started going to those shows, thought it was cool, actually wanted to become a wrestler, but I was in the military, and government body or government issued type property, they don't want you to get hurt. And so I just stayed the biggest fan that I could. Next thing you know, there's other organizations that are popping up in the area. And I was in Germany. I would come back in the spring and fall, and we're at the CD Trade Post, if you guys remember those.
I remember those.
Me and my daughter at the time, and she's 10 at the time, and we're in the CD Trade Post, and there just so happened to be a flyer on the counter announcing PWP wrestling over in Council Bluffs over at the Armory. And it was that day, the same day we were there. The flyer was that night for the event. So we went, and we instantly were hooked, fans. My daughter, it's kind of like Vegas. What happens in wrestling stays at wrestling. And so you get a chance to interact with the fans and the crowd and the wrestlers, and, definitely a lot of fun. And then next thing you know, then another independent being Magnum Wrestling, that got developed. So we started going to those shows. And so then I was a fan for a long time. Probably 5 to 10 years that I was going to some of these independent promotions. And then next thing you know, Jason Strife will go with that name. He had put out a ad on Facebook that anybody who was interested in being a referee, a wrestler, or a manager. Well, here I am getting into the game. I'm 57 now, meaning that I got in the game at 48 and 47 type. And so I'm too old to be a wrestler. and I thought, hey, this military was used to keep me in shape, and this referee will keep me in shape. So I got interested, went to the school with Nate's wrestling school. We did, I believe it was about 8 weeks, 9 years ago, so my memory's gone. And
was
here I am.
When he had it in his garage?
He had it in his garage, yeah.
Yep.
He sure did. I was fortunate enough, I went through school with Tim Boston. People may know him. And then also Chris Magnificent. Mm-hmm. And they were in my class as well. So, but that's what got me hooked. Being a fan initially, and then there was an opportunity, and I was like, do I want to do this? Because the fan aspect's a lot of fun. And I thought, why not? Now I've been doing it 9 years, and it's like, wow, it's been a long time that I've been into wrestling, obviously.
Yeah.
And you even worked for our company at one point,
yeah, absolutely,
too.
I did. Absolutely.
Yeah, sorry about knocking you out when I was trying to strangle Brandon Morris to death.
No. You're fine.
We actually went into that last podcast, too, so, and it's like, well, I figured the worst that they could do is maybe suspend me one show, like Duke Cornell slicing Xander McIntosh or Diggin Biggs' throat with that little gimmick they had on his finger. So it's like, why not?
Why not?
All right. So what common mistakes do referees tend to make on the independent circuit for matches and whatnot?
Okay, so let's not try to get into the mistakes. What happens is you are there in the ring to guide traffic, communicate to the wrestlers, and it's funny because as a referee, you are not what people are there to see. You're not the important one in the ring, but yet you have the most important role. And what I mean by that is you're going to be the communicator, and at the same time, at the very end, if you don't count to 3, that match isn't done. So the referee has the most important. Mistakes-wise, you got to make sure you're in the right area, you don't want to get in their way. They're there to put on a show and wrestle. I'm just there to count and communicate. So I want to make sure that I stay out of the way.
Yeah, because I was going to say that's something that, from a wrestler's perspective, we hate a referee that, when we're trying to run things, he just gets right in the way. I'm guilty of it myself in the past because I've done some refereeing, obviously, a little bit when I was green, but that's one thing I had to figure out instantly is, hey, get the hell out of the way when they're trying to run a high spot, either rope to rope, corner to corner.
Right. So the nice thing is as me doing it 9 years, and I get to being in the Midwest area, I've wrestled with refed with a lot of some of the same wrestlers over the years. You get to know what they're doing. You get to know kind of how they work. So it's kind of nice when you have veterans, me being a veteran and them being veterans, worked with them long enough that I pretty much just go where I know they're going to, or, I go opposite of where they're going, and you get to know that. They do have the horseshoe, which, is just kind of circling the ring except for where the main hard cam would come in. You don't want to step across that. And that's just where the camera's coming into the match itself. And so the corner, you can definitely just hide in a corner if need be. Mistakes, you don't try to make mistakes. It's not really mistakes that's made. It's the recovery. Like I said, it's a choreographed show. You as a fan or the fans out there may or may not know there's a mistake going on. And that's what we want. If you didn't see a mistake, there was no mistake. Because it's not a mistake, it's the recovery. So kind of like I explained this, wrestling's kind of like a Broadway musical, okay? You're out in front of people, and if you're on a Broadway play or musical and you forgot your lines, you're not just going to stop and say, oh, now what? You're going to keep going. Whether it's the wrong words, whatever it be, you keep going, you recovered. And most 90% of the time in wrestling, the fans out there don't even know there was a mistake even made.
Yeah. The reason I asked is because I used to be a referee a long time ago. After my OWA days, I actually went to work for Jake Hook, and there was this one match where it was I think, was it 4-4 or tag team? I can't remember which it was, but they told me ahead of time that the finish was this one guy doing a frog splash off of the top rope, and that would be the end of the match. Well, they get into a big cluster frag in the ring, and the guy in question that was supposed to do the frog splash was about to do a frog splash, and he did the frog splash, and I count 1, 2, 3, and I didn't see the guy's foot on the rope, and they told me that no, that wasn't the frog splash. and
No, and it's crazy because once again it's the recovery. They're gonna come up with a finish. Like I said, once again it's choreographed. We know what the finish will be, but there are times where they may have an audible. Maybe one of the wrestlers is injured, and what he thought he could do, maybe he can't no longer, so then he wants to change the finish up. So when I go down to count, I have to make sure that I'm there watching everything. The good thing is, if that's not the finisher or it got changed to be the finisher, if I count 3 and they either kick out or have a foot on the rope, I can now see that and I can wave off that 3 count. Now, the fans aren't going to be happy, but at the same time, it's a lot better than me going 1, 2, wait, this isn't the finisher. Now I go to count 3 knowing it's not supposed to be. What do I do? If I stop, then it's going to definitely be noticeable and we're going to have a problem. If I count 2, 3, they kick out, legs on the rope, and then I see it after that, it's that recovery that made it. The fans can be mad at the ref, but the show still continues and no one even knows there was a problem.
Yeah, that, or you could do the old 1, 2, oh God, I'm having a heart attack, ball back. By the way, you gotta do that whenever it looks like I'm gonna get beat next time.
So that is funny though. That you say something like that because I did actually have in training. This was not in the show. Back in the day during COVID, they had Patreon tapings, and so what one of the organizations was doing was they were bringing people in and they were taping because we were not allowed to be in front of people. And I remember I had a match during one of those Patreon tapings, and I went 1, 2, and I pulled something in my shoulder, and so when I went to do it, I hesitated. And I let it be known as my shoulder, and of course afterwards they're like, "Oh, it's your shoulder." Sure, it was, but it was. So, like I said, it's not mistakes it's made; it's the recovery. You just don't want to make it look like there's anything happening in the wrong way. So,
alrighty. Well, especially in your 9 years, you've gained a lot of infamy, and a lot of people cheer for you. And how does it feel to be a referee that sells merch?
All right, that's an interesting topic. First off, I want to thank everybody that's ever bought, paid attention, yelled Rudy Diamond, come to a show. Any fan out there, thank you very much for the support. It's very humbling. I will tell you, I've never expected in my life. You know, I'm retired military, so I'm doing fine there. Life is good. And so I'm getting into the my 50s where I'm enjoying life, and then all of a sudden, I've been doing the wrestling for 9 years, and I have people. Rudy or Rudy Diamond, or have a shirt on, or they, one of my trading cards. So it's very humbling. It's very, very nice to see that I can entertain and be a fan of people. At the same time, I'm like, I want to pinch myself because it's like, is this real? So,
I was gonna say, till she passed away earlier this year, you were actually her mother's favorite person to see at shows, and she actually, and we still have it. We have one of your shirts from. When she went and got one from you, and she said it's like anytime that we are booking a show, we're automatically reaching out to Rudy first to make sure we have at least one referee, and he always gets first dibs on it. So see if he can make it, especially because like we've known each other for has it been the same amount of time you've been? Like because I think I came in like maybe a year and a half before you did, maybe 2 years.
I remember going to shows, Dalton, and you and Purple were at PWP, and you were kind of like PWP. You have people who are interested in becoming or getting into the business, and they will start them out as kind of ring crew. And I remember you and Purple being ring crew for PWP. So I remember you before I even knew who you were as a fan. I remember watching and seeing you guys out there tearing the ring. And then here I am as a ref. Over at PWP, and then there you were, and I don't remember what character he was at the time.
Dalton Lee Roth.
Yeah, there you go. I couldn't remember the name. So I remember the character, but I couldn't remember what the name was.
Yeah, it's definitely a character worth forgetting, in my opinion. So
I don't think so. I think you build on it. It's great foundation. It's great building blocks. None of us kind of the same way. You start out doing something. One of the things I want to say is, we're putting ourselves out there in front of people. And, a lot of people don't like to public speak. At the same time, put an appearance out in front of people, but yet again, you're out there in your underwear.
Yep.
Or basically, with the trunks. And so a lot of
especially me in those days without a tan, with my belly bullets still hanging over a little bit now. That's why I wear a butcher top.
But I give props to anybody that can go out there and put themselves out there.
Oh, yeah, instantly.
Because it takes a special kind of mindset to be able to do that in front of people that you don't even know.
And especially go out there and just do it openly. It's like, I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to do the best I can with it without any hesitation. That's where It's like you can have a character like Naked Midian go out there, but if you own it, it'll get over. And it was a sellout every single time at Gorilla.
And in the same way, look at I don't want to like all the wrestlers and everybody workers I work with are great, and I if I don't mention some, I'm not trying to get one over or not get one over because I love all you guys. But for example, Ryan Romanek, he's a bigger style wrestler. That takes a lot for him to go out there without a shirt on. I wouldn't want to do that, you know, and you know he's a bigger guy, and so for him to and the character but you know what, the fans love it because I think they can relate. He's more like someone like them versus someone that's like you, Dalton, where you're you know, into the fitness guy, and I'm not saying against anybody.
More like powerlifting with the big belly that I got now.
No,
so.
That's okay.
But I've actually wrestled Ryan, and I tell you what, I think a lot of people don't really know about him is that I think he's extremely underrated. Yeah, he has his shtick, but what he does out there is that he fits his place on the card perfectly. He's willing to sell, he's willing to bump, he's willing to give, but you know, at the same time, everybody knows that whenever he does that comeback and throws his gut into, you know, other people are gonna pop. So it's like he has his place on the card for that.
And that's the nice thing is he's able to run with it and make it a good performance for the crowd. The crowd loves him. He's a big fan favorite. He gets over with his music, his entrance, and I think I believe he gets over because it's one of those things that people can relate to. Like if he could do it,
and he's a likable guy. Too.
He is. He's a super nice guy. Super nice.
Unlike me.
No comment, sir. No comment. No.
Yeah. Ew.
Alrighty. So, what are some of the favorite matches that you've refereed over the years?
Okay, so I was honored enough to be identified in the Nebraska Hall of Fame. The match of the year was Jason Strife against
Nick Aldis.
No.
Cortez.
Mike
Bennett.
Mike Bennett. Sorry, thanks, Dalton. And so that became the match of the year, and I have it on my own personal files and go back and look at it, and definitely, so that's one of my favorites. And of course, anytime you get into a starstruck situation, what I mean was my very first match, the very first night I wrestled was up in Sioux Falls for Eugene's promotion, and next thing you know, I'm refereeing Carlitos in the ring, you know. And so anytime you get some of those ex-stars that you've grown up watching or been able to watch on the TV, and then next thing you know, they're in your, you know, I call it living room, you know, in the ring that you're going to be refereeing, you know, so those are all great matches. But I actually honestly have to say we did a free show with one promotion at Christmas time, and my whole family was able to come, my sister, my brothers, my mom, and so that of all matches, only because my family was able to see me. They're not big wrestling fans, you know, so my sister, that was the only show she's been to, and that's fine. Probably one of the greatest thing was I think I took a bump during one of the matches, and my mom was, you know, all panic and asking my sister, is he going to be okay? And, you know, she didn't know that it was a show. So it was good. That was probably my best match.
So what other names have you had the pleasure of refereeing for?
So Al Snow, we mentioned Carlito, and of course Eugene and Mike Bennett, Cheeseburger, Shane Douglas. Let's see.
Were there for Michael Elgin?
So who was the one at PWP that came in Japan belt?
Yeah, Michael Elgin.
Yeah, Elgin. Yeah. In fact, I think that was one of the times I made a mistake at one time back in the day.
Yeah, he worked with Top Guy Terry that night.
Yeah. Jay Lethal. I had a chance to work with Jay Lethal. Some of the AEW stars. Yeah, there's been. I mean, it just keeps coming in, which I'm very honored for sure.
What words of wisdom do you have for people that want to get into wrestling but can't necessarily be a wrestler?
Perfect. I love it. Want to get into wrestling, can't be a wrestler. Okay. One thing I want to let people know. Wrestling is not for everyone, okay? Give you an example. It could be an age thing. It could be a physicality thing. We get a lot of people that want to know how to be a wrestler. My first question to them is, what sports did you participate when you were in high school? If they say none, then I know athletically they may or may not be the best option as being a wrestler. So it is an athletic, even though it's choreographed, there is athleticism is very big in the wrestling. So if you can't be a wrestler, then be the next best thing. There's nothing wrong. If you're not going to make the cut, or you try it, it's not for you, because it's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of training, it's a lot of dedication, it's a lot of traveling, it's a lot of nothing. It's a lot of thank you for being here. It's a lot of little pays. But if you can't be a wrestler, then as myself, you can be a referee. That's what I chose. You can try to be a manager if you want, if there's a position for you. But if you can't do any of those, you know what you can be? You can be a great fan. I have a good friend of mine, Butch, is Megaphone Man, has a shirt now. I was going to shows when before I was a ref with him, and he's like a super fan, and everybody knows him. So he's just important to us being a wrestling group. Those fans are just important. And so you can't be a wrestler, you can't be a ref, can't be a manager. What you can be is a great wrestling fan.
I agree, because one thing I want to say about Butch, while we're still on topic with him, something that I always tell wrestlers if they're trying to get over, especially with the first time going to a new crowd or anything like that, go and look for the fan that most people are going to be modeling what they do, whether it's cheering and booing them. Go out there and interact with that fan more than any other fan, because the whole crowd will come along with them.
And I agree, Dalton. And here's the nice thing with Butch, right? He's been doing it, and I've known him for a long time. He's been coming to shows before I was a ref. I've been reffing for 9 years. So here's the nice thing. Because he's known, if I have a situation where I need someone to give me a cue on time maybe, or the wrestlers want to go out in the ring and they want to interact, I can send them over to Butch's way, knowing that he's going to be into it as much as the wrestlers. He's going to be part of that show, and he's going to give it his 100% as much as those wrestlers are. So it's nice to have those fans. For example, if I bring my granddaughter with me, she's in the audience, the wrestler comes over to her, she's going to get scared. She ain't going to play into that. Of course, her age, of course. But, it's nice to have those fans. So that, once again, Sarah, to answer, what can you do if you can't be a wrestler, can't be a ref, or any of the, there's definitely other opportunities. But if anything, I love being a super fan, and I was at one time as well.
Well, I also would also add and look at people like Dave Meltzer. And Meltzer, sorry, tongue-tied.
You're fine, no worries.
But there is, especially with the day and age of the internet, I mean, you can make yourself known through podcasts, through streams.
Sharing your opinion about the business, what you enjoy, what you might not enjoy, what you think of today's product, who you like, why you like them. Just go out there and mouth off, basically, kind of like what I do.
I mean, some people have adverse expectations when it comes to like things like dirt sheets and stuff like that. So I mean, maybe don't go too overboard on it. But I mean, it's like if you have like a point of view, like for instance, if you have a theater background and you talk about the wrestlers' performances, like I do. I mean, if you have a place where you have a starting point for your knowledge, I do believe that fans can make things more interesting for the professional wrestling world.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's the nice thing. It's a show. If we're there and there's no fans, we're going to put on a show, but it's not going to be the same. I can have a dead crowd, a small crowd, but if I have a crowd and they're popped and they're involved, those wrestlers are going to bring 120% versus 80% if there's no crowd. So it's a big show for us all. We all can be involved one way or another.
Awesome sauce. Well, it's time to take it home.
I'm going to go home sign. I wish I had a damn pencil somewhere, so.
Aw. Rudy, do you have any social media that you'd like to plug on the air?
The only thing, if you guys are fans, you can go on Facebook, Referee Rudy Diamond Facebook page, and I'll accept you as a friend request. Because I am the older generation, you're going to say, TikTok and all that other stuff. That takes too much of my time. So Facebook is the one, or if you know me well enough, there's Instant Messenger, and there's plenty of people that know the name that I'm easy to get a hold of.
Awesome sauce. Well, this is Sarah Whitaker.
Salty Dalty.
And Referee Rudy Diamond.
Please follow us on your favorite podcast section. We're on Spotify, we're on Spreaker, we're on a lot of things. Also, go to our YouTube and tell us about your favorite referee, because we have our podcast posted on my YouTube at Sarah Whitaker, and I think it's Lady Morga 0240. And give us your thoughts about referees and whatnot, and we'll see you next time.
I'm still pissed off and mad about it.
Not
And
again.
have a great day, folks.
Take care.